Alright, now we have 4 of us here doing the Rocky Trail Entertainment Ourimbah Superflow. We're going to get a race preview from the boys and see what they have to say. Factory!
Yo!
Sorry, I need a microphone.
Yeah, you won't hear me without this.
Okay, what's your plan of attack today so we know what you're going to do so we can beat you?
Oh, look, the plan of attack is just to take it easy and not even try, just to have fun, but I know I'm going to get to the start line, the red mist is going to descend, and I'm probably going to kill myself somewhere halfway down the trail. But what can you do? We're here to have fun.
Have fun, that's it. Alright, pilot.
Send it and see what times we get.
Oh yeah, very good.
As long as we beat the old guy.
Oh, the old guy, yeah.
Speaking of the old guy.
Oh, we don't need a microphone.
Hey, no shooting, wait, no shooting.
You don't need a microphone, do you?
Yeah,
Here you go, mate. All right, Master Splinter, the master.
it's race day. Time's not going to set itself. Get out of my way.
There you have it, boys. You know, tough competition here, but you know, let the best guy win.
All right. Well, that's a bold prediction by McRibs there. It was our first enduro race though, so there was little basis for comparison, and he had as good a chance as anyone, I suppose. G'day everyone, it's Factory here from Splinter Cell MTB. Normally at this stage of a Splinter Cell video we're going to cut some choice edits of trails, but we've got a bit of a different video for you this week. Now before we get into the racing action, we ran a poll on Facebook leading up to the race to get some predictions on who some of our regular riding buddies thought would win out of the Splinter Cell boys who were competing. We had 4 riders in the race, riding in 4 different age categories. We had Pilot in the 19 to 30 age group, we got McRibs in the 30 to 40 age category, myself in the 40 to 50 age category, and Master Splinter in the geriatric 50 plus group. And here's what Facebook thought the results would be. We had McRibs and Master Splinter tied for last with 17% of the vote, myself in second with 27% of the vote, and Pilot flying his way to victory on 39% of the vote. But before we could find out if Facebook knows what it's talking about, we had to get to the top of the mountain. And as you can see, we pedalled our way quite vigorously to the top. Now, it had rained a lot overnight and the fire road was pretty muddy on the way up, with a few sections of that sticky clay mud that likes to get stuck to the bottom of your shoes. I made some comments on the way up about not wanting to get any of that mud on my feet, only to be maliciously ridiculed by McRibs about not wanting to get my shoes dirty. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, what a shit anecdote. But trust me here, there's a reason for telling you about that. But anyway, let's just jump straight to the top of the climb now, and we'll jump on board with Pilot here down the first run of the day, which is on the Fox Trail. Now this is a trail which none of us has ever ridden before, so we're doing it here for the first time blind on a race run. Pilot was feeling good straight away though and set a good time on his first run. By contrast, the rest of us had a bit of a rough start to the day. Across the top section of the track, Master Splinter was out of control, feeling very stiff on the bike and getting bounced around all over the place. And then he got taken by surprise by the steep little climb and found himself with all the wrong gears. He started hitting his straps though through the berms and down the technical descent into the wall ride, and then pedalled through the XC section to the finish for a reasonable first time. I was much like Master Splinter, all stiff on the bike and struggling through the first part of my run. Riding the technical section, I chose what I thought was a nice inside line, only to find myself with a foot off one pedal, heading wide into a drop, and I had to bring the whole thing to a stop, recalibrate and take a beeline. So from that point forward it was just a sighting run for my next attempt. But McRibs, so remember he was giving me a bit of shit about not wanting to get mud on my shoes? Well, here's a short clip of what happened on his first run on the Fox Trail.
Oh, feet are going everywhere. All the mud on my shoes.
So a little bit of poetic justice there for McRibs. Did you see the camera equipment on the side of the track there? It went down right in front of the cameraman for a great action shot. So we're back on board with Pilot, and let's have a look now at the results of the first run. And so unsurprisingly on that run, the quickest of all was Pilot with a time of 3:14.2. I was pretty ordinary there at 3:39.4, McRibs 4:28.0 after that crash, and Master Splinter with a bit of work to do as well at 3:25.5. So we pushed our way back up to the top of the hill for another run down Fox, and poor old Pilot was looking like he'd met his match in that hill by the time we got to the top, looking pretty ordinary indeed. And it showed in his time too. He lost his footing on the first rocky section of the trail, smashed his shin pretty hard on the pedal, and then lost all confidence for the balance of the run. And that was to prove to be a bit of a theme for this run. Poor old McRibs, after his misfortune on the previous run, smashed his foot on a tree pretty early on. That hurt him a bit through the climb, but then he pulled it all together for a reasonable descent, and all in all wasn't too upset with his run. I had similar problems. I clipped my handlebar on a tree and then smashed my foot into another tree, but pulled it together after that, and I put together what was not too bad a run, but I still wasn't all that happy with it. Best on ground for this run though was Master Splinter. He was pretty happy with his form throughout, stayed nice and loose on the bike up top, on the brakes early and off them early in through the berms. Pretty happy with his wall ride and his pedal section through to the end, so he put down a pretty good time. And so let's check out those times now. Pilot wasn't able to improve on his first run, putting down a 3:37.6. I was a fair bit better than my first run, 12 seconds faster with a 3:27.5, matched almost identically by McRibs with a 3:27.7. And Master Splinter was by far the quickest on this one, putting down a very credible 3:16.8, which would ultimately prove to be his fastest run on Fox. And we'll jump back on board with Pilot now, just getting towards the end of his first run here on Fox, just as he's about to pass McRibs after that early crash. And just before we head off to have a look at the Stanz trail, we've got a few still action shots that were taken by the official photographer for the event, and they were positioned partway down the Fox trail at the beginning of the day. Alright, so let's just jump to the top of the Stanz run here now, and we're on board with me, chasing Master Splinter down the descent. We were all well and truly warmed up now, and this stage utilises part of the downhill track at Ourimbah, which we're all somewhat familiar with. There's a pretty scary looking drop towards the bottom of this track, which neither McRibs nor I had ever hit before, and so we all set the challenge of hitting it for the first time on a race run. McRibs had a good solid run, but he knew he had room for improvements in the burns and the drops. Unfortunately, he messed up the corner prior to the big drop, which left him without enough speed to hit it comfortably on this run. I really surprised myself with how well the run was going, right up until the point I had a whoopsie moment through one of the technical sections that ended up with both feet on the ground, but I was quickly back on the bike. Importantly, I hit that big drop and did it comfortably. Pilot had a solid first run and surprised himself with how good he was feeling. Though he had every intention of taking it easy, he put in a scorcher of a run. Let's cut to the times now, and we all had in mind to do better than 2 minutes on this stage, and Pilot smashed it on the siding run with 1 minute 54.9. I was surprised by my time with a 2:08.2 even after a fairly large mistake, and I was feeling confident that I could get very close to that 2 minute mark if I put in a good clean run. McRibs was also feeling pretty good, with a 2 minutes 19.6, knowing that he had taken it pretty easy, and that if he had a clean run and hit that drop, he had a good 15 to 20 seconds up his sleeve. Master Splinter was only looking for an extra 0.1 seconds after a clean first sighting lap and a time of 2 minutes flat. So, now we're all feeling good, so let's head back to the top for another run. But now we're at the top, and Pilot and McRibs aren't feeling so good anymore, with the heat and the climbs beginning to take their toll. We agree that Master Splinter and I will do our runs while the other two have a rest, and we'll head back to the cars to prepare for lunch. We'll meet them later. I followed Master Splinter down, and that's the run you're watching now. I'd really managed to stay with Master Splinter right up until this point. It gets a little bit more technical here in the trail, and let's face it, he just did this a hell of a lot better than me, and you can see he's opening up a few seconds. But right now we're coming up on that gap, and trust me, it looks a lot scarier in real life than it does here. But I'm happy I've hit it clean again, and heading down now just across the finish line. We'll head back to the top of the hill and jump on board with McRibs now. He and Pilot had stopped for a good 10-minute rest at the top of the hill, and during that time McRibs was listening to Pilot complain. He complained to us all relentlessly throughout the day about how he doesn't like pedalling, how he's no good at pedalling, and he thinks he's going to lose a bunch of time every time he's pedalling. To hear him talk, you'd think his bike doesn't even have pedals. Well, you just saw him pedalling off into the distance. Pilot had made up his mind. He was intent on the fact that he was going to put down a good run, and as you can see, he was working bloody hard for it in the top section. Unfortunately, he caught up with the rider before him, some kid who had broken his rear brake lever, and that ruined what surely would have been a good time. Poor old McRibs though, he was having a run to forget. So let's just jump ahead here. He's coming up on the drop now, and desperate to finally send it for the first time. He misses the entry to the corner here though, and with a slow exit it's going to take some solid cranks to hit it comfortably from here. Not today unfortunately. It's only the pressure of racing that stopped him from hitting it here though. I've seen him hit much bigger drops than this, and it'll definitely happen next time. So as he wheels across the finish line, let's check out the scores. So we can see Pilot was definitely on a flyer, only 0.1 of a second slower than his previous run despite being held up by some traffic. I smashed through that 2 minute barrier for a 1 minute 57.2 and I was pretty chuffed with that one. McRibs, well, he was having a pretty ordinary day so far and held up again on that run for a 2:32.1, so still not able to piece together a run yet today. And Master Splinter had an absolute terror of a run as well at a 154.2. So with 2 runs each of Fox and Stanz trails in the bag, we headed back to the cars for lunch. Then after some steak sandwiches and electrolytes, we climbed back up the mountain again to try the laser trail. Because we were all having so much fun, we all neglected to start the GoPros for the laser trail, so we're watching Master Splinter's best run down the Stanz trail instead. The laser trail utilises the flow trail at Ourimbah, so we knew it was going to be a pedally affair. With pedalling came more complaining from Pilot about his perceived genetic deficiency in the pedalling department. Feeling like he was only going to get one attempt at this one, Pilot put everything he had into it and it showed in his time. We'll come back to that in a minute. Master Splinter was feeling a bit worse for wear after lunch. He barely saved a front wheel washout in one of the corners and couldn't find his rhythm over the rollers and pedal sections. Like the rest of us, he couldn't find the right seat position and reached the bottom with tired legs and generally unhappy with his riding. I followed Master Splinter down with the strategy of starting 50 metres behind him and finishing 10 metres behind him, and it worked. I know that I could have done better, but I was pretty happy with it for a first run. McRibs is the only one of us who had never ridden this trail before. He was keen to finally get a good run, so he wisely used this as a sighting lap and didn't empty the tank as he was planning to do that on the next run. So let's check out the times. And Mr. I Hate Pedaling smashed it, knocking out a 3:17.2 on his first run. I was really pleased with my first run at 3 minutes 23.9. McRibs had a good solid sighting lap at 3:40.2 and was pumped to head back to the top and give it a red hot go. And Master Splinter, despite being unhappy with his riding, finished with a very credible 3 minutes 25.1. And so for the first time now, we have a time on all 3 trails and we can start doing a comparison of the overall times. Despite McRibs' predictions at the beginning of the day, he'd really struggled to record a good run on any of the stages and was sitting last at 9 minutes 27.6. In third place was me at 8 minutes 48.6. In second place, with 8 minutes 36.1, was Master Splinter, who was having a good day and was already happy with his results. But way out in front was Pilot on 8 minutes 26.3. Not bad for a bloke who apparently can't pedal. And it was at this point that our strategies diverged. Pilot and I decided that we were happy with our first run on laser, and that there was more time to be made up on the Fox and Stanz trails. So we traversed across and climbed the other route back to the top. As Master Splinter crosses the line, we'll go back on board with Pilot now at the beginning of the Fox trail, but we'll stick with the story of Master Splinter and McRibs for a moment, who climbed back to the top of the laser trail for their second attempt. McRibs adopted a strategy of chasing Master Splinter, and from the start that went well. Master Splinter was hitting all the lines and overall was much happier than his previous attempt, and McRibs was sticking right on his rear wheel. At the bottom of the first section, the A line was closed, meaning all riders were forced onto the B line. Master Splinter overshot the B line though and had to pull it up and walk around. McRibs followed him in. He just wasn't catching a break today. So let's check in on their times, and neither of them improved on their previous run. McRibs with a 3 minute 52.9 and Master Splinter with a 3:32 flat. No change in the overall times. And with that, they called it a day and went back to the cars for a beer. And with that being the laser trail done for the day, here's a few still shots from the official photographers at the event. Meanwhile, Pilot and I had made our way to the top of the mountain. I had some unfinished business on Fox Trail, so we tackled that first. My strategy was to follow Pilot through. He was on a flying lap, as you can see on the screen right now, and I was right behind him, not losing any ground. Then, right out of the blue, a bloody tree jumped in front of my path. I clipped it with my handlebar at high speed and went over the bars face first into the ground. Fortunately, I was wearing my full face helmet and all my protective gear, and no pain was felt. Unfortunately, the GoPro was out of battery, so no footage was recorded. Pilot carried on and showed that he really was on a hot lap, improving on his previous best time by over 2 seconds with a 3 minutes 12.0. He also increased his lead over Master Splinter by improving his overall time. I picked myself up and finished the stage with 3 minutes 52.6 and really feeling beaten up by this trail. I wasn't about to let the trail get the better of me though, so I headed back up to the top for another run of the Fox Trail. My goal was to keep it rubber side down, take fewer risks and just try to improve on my previous best time by avoiding any errors. Pilot was keen for another go at the Stanz Trail, so we'll jump on board with him right now. He was on it. He knew he could go faster after his second run was interrupted by a slower rider, and so he was targeting another 5 seconds off his previous best time. And he was having a great time doing it too, cheering and yahooing himself the whole way down. Before we watch the end of his run, let's quickly check the times. I finally got a clean run on the Fox Trail and improved my previous best time and overall time by 3.9 seconds with a 3 minutes 23.6. And Pilot improved by 4.5 seconds on Stanz with a 1 minute 50.4. Let's listen into Pilot now, cheering himself down the mountain for the last time.
Oh, he's been rugged. Oh. Oh. Keep it together. Keep it together. Oh, nice. Oh. Yeah, boy, that was a clean run. Whew.
So, Facebook had picked the winner. Pilot smashed us. He also took out 8th place overall in the 19 to 30 age category. Master Splinter 2nd, me 3rd, and McRibs rounding out the table. But the times don't matter because we all had a bucket load of fun. It's not an enduro race in the purest sense, but this is about as much fun as you can have on a mountain bike. I reckon the guys at Rocky Trail Entertainment are onto a winning formula with this race series. So if you're thinking of giving it a go, don't hold back. Alright, so that's the end of our a hard day's riding for our first ever enduro race, which is the Rocky Trail Superflow something. What do you think, boys? How's your day?
It was a good day.
Sensational. Sensational.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Racing the clock against yourself.
Haven't thought of an excuse yet for why I did so bad, but other than that, it was a really, really good day.
You're McRib, man. You don't need to make excuses.
No. A couple of falls, not too bad, nothing dangerous.
No injuries.
No injuries. All my ribs are there. If you haven't done any downhill racing or enduro racing or whatever, and you think you might like it, give it a go, because it's great fun. It's
just a ride with your mates.
Ride with your mates.
With a bit of sauce to make it interesting.
I think we all impressed ourselves today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Alright, well, thanks for watching. For some reason people are starting to watch our channel now, so we got to do the proper YouTube thing, so like smash the like button for us, subscribe to the channel.
And drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly. We really appreciate your support, so nice.
Peace out.